So cryptocurrency is just a currency that operates without any central point of control, like a government or a central bank. That means there's no central entity determining who owns what and who's allowed to participate in the currency, who's allowed an account, right, or any other aspect of how the currency operates. So blockchain is a process for reaching agreement in a context where there is no centralized point of control. So in the context of cryptocurrencies, you use a blockchain in order to determine who owns what. If you're operating a currency, then you have to determine certain things. In particular, you have to determine how many coins does Andy own, how many coins does Bob own, and so on. And everybody has to reach agreement, those facts. So you need some sort of protocol for reaching agreement in a context where there isn't any sort of central point of control, such as the government. You can just declare, okay, Andy owns this and Bob owns that. The thing that attracts people, the reason people see it as being important, is this fundamental idea of decentralization. Okay, so the suggestion is that there are contexts in which decentralization is important. Some people would argue that that's important in the context of currencies. Certainly other people would argue it's important in many other contexts. For example, the World Wide Web. So the World Wide Web today is very centralized. It's controlled by a small set of large, very powerful companies. And the suggestion is it'd be better to run the web with a more decentralized architecture. And you have to look at that situation and say, well, is it healthy that there's maybe 5 guys in California who essentially can decide who's allowed to say what and when? The future's hard to predict. I think the basic message I'd say there is, I think so the technology is not a bottleneck here. It's certainly possible to build cryptocurrencies that can process 100,000 transactions a second or more. I think one of probably the biggest questions are around regulatory issues. If you look in the US, there are certainly some bodies there are taking quite an aggressive stance with regard to regulation, and so there's definitely a danger that a lot of the innovation here is going to be killed off. If you look at the UK now, maybe things are a little bit healthier, but I think we'll just have to wait and see what happens here.